Welcome back to another episode of the Get Sculpted podcast. We are here today with a little bit of a controversial topic, also very timely. Girls, I need to know if this is just me. Like, has anybody else opened up social media, whether it be TikTok or Instagram or YouTube even, and recently felt like we have traveled back to the 90s?
Completely.
Like skinny talk is trending again. What I eat in a day is all over the place. People are shrinking to these ultra lean bodies. They're being overly glamorized. There's also the documentary Tell All from America's Next Top Model. There was the Biggest Loser documentary Catch Up that also happened recently. And for a lot of women, this feels very, very familiar. They have been here before and we don't like it. And so today we're asking the question, is this just a trend cycle or are we repeating 90s diet culture? Like, what is going on? And you're going to get our full unfiltered take today.
Have you guys both seen the documentary, by the way? The America's Next Top Model?
I haven't watched it all.
Yeah.
I watched The Biggest Loser
I watched
one.
it.
I've got
I watched
it queued
it
up.
last weekend. I watched it, and Brian's like, I can't believe I've never watched this show.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like
so
the original. Yeah.
It's interesting because, like, a lot of what they say, even the people they interviewed, they're like, you know what? It was bad, yes, what I was saying and doing, but, like, it was also the time, right?
It was the time.
Sure.
It was definitely the time. But, like, that's the thing. It's one thing, you know what they say, if you don't learn history, it's destined to repeat itself. So
That's right.
yeah.
100%. So, like, before we dive into, like, that part, what are you guys feeling overall from what you're seeing on social media, whether it be like, or, you know, on Netflix with the documentaries? Like, how's this vibing with you?
Well, when I started seeing it everywhere, honestly, it was like a gut reaction. I truly was like, here we go again. Because I feel like I've spent so many years trying to heal from the 90s and that diet culture because when I think about it, like we were in very formative years in the 90s. At least I was T. I think you were a baby. No, just
Yeah. Hey, it went on into the 2000s.
No, I'm teasing. But it was a very formative time. So I think like my relationship with my body, all of those things were formed by all of that messaging. And so now I'm just like, oh my God, here I go again. So it's triggering for me, but we also now have littles in our lives who are in those formative years. So I'm just like, oh God, like here we go. Let's do this again. So that's kind of where my brain's been going. What about you girls?
One word comes to mind is like disappointed. I'm just so disappointed in society. And I think the big rise of this, which I know we'll talk about, is like the weight loss drugs, which is not the disappointing part, actually. I think that I just think it's a shame that this could be such a positive stepping stone for people who have these issues where they have this food noise. But it's being used as like this like amazing, I'm using air quotes, tool to help women get skinny. And then I think so many people are now kind of thinking, oh, I finally get to be skinny.
Right.
That was never the goal. Like, not just aesthetically, but do you want to feel that way? Like, do you want your bone density to be that way? No, you do not. You do not. So, and then just the fact that this is trending for the younger population instead of being strong and building muscle and like actually building your health and building your body. That's the disappointing part for me.
Yeah, I just to like build off of what you're saying, T, I think disappointing's the right frame for me too, because we're like trying to buck the trend here. And what we do with Get Sculpted, we're trying to like build everyone up. We're trying to help them see things from a gaining mindset, from like what you gain by being strong. And all of this like culture, like we're rewinding into the 90s. It's like we haven't learned our lesson in terms of how to take a moderate approach to something. Like society is like an extreme one way or another. And you're seeing it play out with, you know, being skinny again and like the heroin chic thing from the 90s, not what it's being called today, but that's what we know.
It's the same thing. That's right.
It's the same exact thing. So let's take this frame and Mare, tell us a little bit about what diet culture actually was like in the 90s for anybody who might have, you know, put a mental block.
Let's set the scene.
All right. Scene setting. All right. Yeah, no, I think we actually have to call it for what it was and remember how intense it was, because it wasn't at all people wanting to be healthier. It was a full-on obsession with being smaller. Like it was idolized. And I can speak so honestly to this because I lived and breathed this entire time. And it was just everywhere you looked was like low fat everything. Everything was to get you skinny, right? So, I mean, we had all the diets. There were all those diets coming out that were peddling basically the same thing, just packaged differently, right? There was Slim Fast shakes as meal replacements.
I had those.
Me too.
When I was 14.
Yeah, yeah. Like Jenny Craig was big. Weight Watchers was coming on the scene. I don't know if you girls remember Nutrisystem. Do you remember Nutrisystem? That. Okay. Yeah. So my mom, maybe. I remember it was at the time when we had actually moved from Toronto to the suburbs. And so my mom had all this, like this big new kitchen, beautiful cupboard space. All of the top cupboards were filled with her Nutrisystem food. And it was like, God. I remember when she would like be out of the kitchen, I'd crawl up on the counters and it was like dehydrated food. I remember eating it. Like I remember sneaking it because I thought this is astronaut food. Like it was so gross. It was so gross in retrospect.
So unnecessary.
And so expensive. So expensive. Yes. But yeah.
That's the point. That's why they were so popular. Sorry.
Precisely. No. So yeah, all these companies were peddling, you know, the same thing in a different package. There was also that, you know, the magazine culture, right? Like, do you remember going to the grocery store? So like, I know at the grocery store still, there's magazines at the checkout, but
do they still do that?
They still do that. They're not as intense though.
That's the thing. It was different magazines. Like I remember it was, you know, like who's wearing the bikini best, who has cellulite, who lost weight, who gained weight. Like it was just basically like a story of everybody's body in celebrity culture.
A shame runway of magazines.
Yeah. Like, and it'll show someone, like I saw someone at a hot dog stand and they were like, oh, they're inhaling a hot dog. I'm like, maybe they're hungry.
Yes, right. Like that's the thing. Paparazzi, they were catching everybody. And it was like it was broadcasted everywhere. It was like you couldn't get away from it. I also remember around that time, like food morality was taking hold, right? Like
Absolutely.
Good food, bad food. Like it was like very much, what's it called? Like, you know, where it's two very like extremes, really. Exactly. It was like good, bad, fat, skinny, like very, very harsh wording. And I also remember how being hungry was praised. Like I remember a lot of people, you know, kind of saying
people
that, you know, like, oh, skinny, she has so much willpower. And it was treated like proof that you were disciplined and in control. And in some ways better than others. Like you were kind of like looked at as, wow, look how skinny she is. She just must have it all together. And then there were all those like ridiculous quotes. And I was so guilty of using those too. But do you remember nothing tastes as good as skinny feels? I can't even tell you how many times I said that. I'm embarrassed. I'm disappointed in myself. But
yes,
it was just, it was bad, guys. It was really bad. So for a lot of women, including myself, like 90s diet culture shaped my relationship with food and not in a good way.
Absolutely.
My self-worth completely was shaped by this time. And, you know, many of the women who come to us now in their 50s and 60s are still working through this. Like, I would love to say that we are fortunate that our journeys have taken us where they have, because we've been able to come out of this and heal from this in a lot of ways. But there's a lot of women who haven't. So yeah, it was not the best of times, but I'd love to know from like, what do you girls think? You know, do you think it was more harmful back then because it was so obvious? Or, I mean, think about now what we're seeing. Is it more dangerous now? I'd love to know what you guys think.
I actually think it's more dangerous now.
Yeah.
And the reason being is that, one, social media is so much more pervasive in our society.
It's totally agree.
All encompassing. It's everywhere. And it's so subtle now. Whereas back then it was so in your face. It was like, okay, but you could turn off the TV. You could not buy the magazine. You could just have these behaviors that kind of shut you off from it. But now it's kind of everywhere all the time. Everyone's talking about it. And, you know, it's also hitting, I think, even in younger demographics, like,
well, because they're consuming the media,
right? So like even Scarlett, like she's like, I uninstalled YouTube, I'm done, I don't want to be on it anymore. It's like, it feels toxic, and she's 12.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, good for her. That's amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
But I would tend to agree with you. Like, you know, before, if I was at the grocery store seeing the magazine, it was in my face. But you're right. You can turn the TV off, not buy the magazine, not look at the magazine. But now it's like you open up your phone, even when you're not following accounts, you're being fed stuff all the time, so right? True. And I also think another big problem is how it's being referenced now. Before, I mean, they didn't mince their words. It was like, get skinny. Now it's like, this is a lifestyle.
Exactly.
This is wellness. This is for your own good. And it's like, it's very confusing. It's very confusing.
Like, where's the line? Yeah,
I exactly. Love that. And T, I would love to like help us bridge the gap in terms of like, it's not just about the language and the lifestyle coming back about being skinny, but what do you feel, walk us through like what you actually feel skinnytok is trying to sell? Like, what are they trying to get women, everybody actually, like to believe and to move towards?
Well, that's kind of what you were touching on, Mare, is that it's kind of like skinnytok is right now, it could be like the wellness. It could be the, you know, you're being disciplined, you're being healthy, you're living your best life, but it's really in unhealthy ways. So it's just really like promoting this very toxic beauty standard and disguising it in a pretty dress. So I think that's the part that like I do want to say, in terms of what we were talking about, what's more harmful is that people kind of don't know what to believe, because some elements of what they're saying, they're taking like slightly true statements and spinning them to ways that are not healthy.
Very good point.
Like it's funny because I see some things on my For You page and I know how to filter it, but like, it's not like I'm being sold by it, but I'll see some things they're saying and I'm like, okay, she's kind of got a point. And then I'm like, what? No, you took that completely different way. Like there's one influencer that's like massive. And I think I've shared her stuff with you before, but she was like saying something like, you know, we're eating everything, but we're tasting nothing. And I'm like, I kind of agree with that. Like people are eating very mindlessly and just overeating like food that is not nourishing them. But then she took that as like, I think someone counted the calories she was eating from her videos and it was like 800 calories a day. And I'm like, but then people kind of see and latch on to like, yeah, you got a point. We are overeating. And then they're swinging the pendulum to the other side, which is exactly what I did. Right? It was like, and then there's a fine line. Like I remember thinking that like people who were skinny have their life together.
That's
like,
right. Yeah.
Like if you are skinny, you are like the goal, like period.
Completely.
And then when I was getting like losing weight and it was like the compliments come in and then like everyone praises it. And then I was like, I need to be even skinnier, and the skinnier the better. And then it was like such a gradual thing that I got to the point where I never realized I wanted to do this to be healthy to start with and to look good. But at the end of the day, I was more and more self-conscious and less healthy.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, right? Like that's the dangerous part. So it's kind of like the marketing language that they're using is like, you know, what are some of the things they're saying? I'm trying to think like this is
clean eating. I think like that's like a big
clean.
one. Yeah, having this clean eating, the Pilates body is coming back. Like
that's right.
Long and lean.
Long and lean. Like,
yep. I'm
oh my God.
I'm 5'2". I'm never going to be long. That's not possible.
You can't make yourself long, okay? Or like long. My favorite, and I'm totally gonna rant. Lifting is making you inflamed. I'm like, girl, dream on. You're never even in your life gonna build the muscle that like to look to look big. The inflammation is just either excess body fat or, let's be honest, you're just drinking a lot and not eating the right kind of foods. Like you're not even eating protein. And anyway, like that's the kind of thing, right? Where like someone might think, okay, these girls that have these Pilates bodies, which is like barely any muscle mass and really, really skinny.
That's right.
Is the ideal. And the thing is, it's like, that's really hard about it is like, it's just the way it's marketed to the younger generation, you know?
Yeah.
Like I think the ladies we work with is like, they kind of understand it because we see that the 90s stuff was so ridiculous. And it's like, you know, no, I don't want to drink shakes instead of my meals. But this way it's more like, you know, you only, you know, they have these food rules that are disguised as not food rules.
That's right. That's why it's so dangerous. Yeah.
Like the one I'm thinking of, she will eat that like 800 calorie diet and she says things like, I eat burgers and I eat dessert every time I go out. But literally, I'm not kidding you, she will have one bite and that's it. And that's like her whole meal for the day.
So misleading.
And see, that's the messed up part where it's like a more sophisticated viewpoint is needed.
That's right.
Right?
It's
like
more sophisticated marketing.
Because we know that like we tell our clients as well, you can have like a burger and fries. Yes.
Sure.
And yes, that does mean eating less of it, but it also doesn't mean like just eating 1,200 calories.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean like not eating before to eat that. And that's why I think it's so dangerous. Like, would you guys add anything to that?
Yeah, I think like let's tie back to like some of the documentaries coming back out because what they've seen when like, let's talk Biggest Loser. Like when they did that documentary, shocker, most of them regained the weight. Shocker. Like, of course they did because the way that they lost the weight was so extreme, was so unhealthy, was so fast that there was not enough muscle to support their metabolisms in terms of being able to maintain long after.
Nor had they changed habits. Like they did nothing. It was so fast and furious. There was no identity shift.
Exactly. And there were like a few that had maintained, but the ones that did changed their identities. They had to come home and do all of that other work.
That's right.
That's underneath the weight loss. That's in the mindset. That's in the day-to-day.
That's right.
In what happens when life falls apart. What happens when something goes wrong. that's when you're like tested in terms of who are you really. And that's when you build the skill set to maintain a healthy weight, essentially, and to have that strong body. But if you don't have the habits that you built when you lost it, you're going to regain
fall right
not
back
just
to
what
where
you
were.
lost, but you're going to gain more. Right?
Totally.
Well, I think what Skinny Talk is neglecting, which I want to tie this back to, is like there's a difference between lean and skinny. Lean is when you just have a good bit of muscle, not a lot of body fat. I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to be lean, but you do not eat the Skinny Talk way to get lean.
Exactly.
Like,
Absolutely.
you know, if you want to be
train
skinny
that way either.
Oh God, no. If you want to be skinny, you eat less. And that's why these women are probably not weight training or building muscle, because I shouldn't laugh, but I'm like, you're eating like 5 crumbs. How are you going to build anything? Like,
I know.
You don't have the energy to do that. Of course you don't. And this one Skinny Talk person was like, you shouldn't exercise because it actually increases your appetite. And I'm like, maybe you should increase your food because your body's telling you. So like, I guess I'm tying this back to like, how can people recognize the difference? So like, at the end of the day, we're not saying that you can't want to look good. We're not saying that you don't want to like lose weight or body fat. It's just like you don't want to do that at the expense of your health or your muscle mass, which is your health. So muscle is like the organ of longevity. So like what we're talking here, which is what we do with our clients, is like some of it involves fat loss for sure. And that's completely reasonable. But if you can't see yourself doing it every day, then why even do it for a week or a day? Why?
That's right.
If you can't see yourself doing this kind of lifestyle forever, it's not sustainable.
No, it's not. And it's not going to work long term.
Exactly.
Full stop.
Like, that's kind of what I want to interject here is that, if you're listening to this and thinking, I'm kind of confused, like I'm watching this content, I do want to feel better in my body, but I'm kind of pulled into these old patterns and I know that's not good for me. You want to do things different. This is exactly what we help our clients with. We don't do the whole skinny thing. We get you lean and sculpted, and there's a big difference between that.
Yes.
So this means you're actually eating for building muscle and recovering and feeling good and feeling healthy, and in a way that you actually learn how to sustain it and change your identity, not just change for a few weeks. So if this is something that you feel like you jive with, you can always find us into the show notes. We're going to leave you a link where you can chat with us. You can book some time with us, get to know your situation, and we will share a different approach with you. So Jord, I would love if you take this time to kind of, talk to us about why this is hitting our audience, in particular, the women who are in their mid 30s, 40s, 50s and beyond.
Yeah, I think it's hitting them a little bit harder now because the marketing message is softer and more disguised. It's not as direct, like you were saying before, Mar.
Yeah.
And they've already been through this before. And underneath it all, there is still that desire to be in a leaner body.
That's right.
How they visualize that, the words that they are used to using are the words that Skinny Talk is using.
That's
so
right.
They don't necessarily know the difference yet. Like I hear it all the time. They're like, I know I need to lift weights. I know I need to eat protein. I know I need to be in a calorie deficit, but this looks way easier what they're doing. But
That's
it's
right.
a lot more painful and it's a lot more destructive on the body. And so many, especially like our clients that are working with us, it's almost like you're getting a little like glimmer of like negativity every time it like hits you in the face, like a little slap.
Yes.
It's like,
yep.
hey, you healed your relationship with food or you're working on all this stuff.
No,
but,
you
like,
didn't.
Come back.
Yeah.
Can I share something that
Yeah,
one of my
of course.
clients said early in our journey? We were very much establishing the basics, right? And she was skipping meals and not eating enough. And it was like, okay, let's start there. And then she's like, oh, this doctor that I'm at this retreat or whatever with her friends, this doctor who, I don't know what kind of doctor they are, but they were pushing these cleanse or whatever that you lose. They were pushing these peptides or something where they're like, you're going to lose 20 pounds in a month or something.
Oh,
and then
okay.
she's like, I'm not going to lie, this is really tempting. I'm like, do you want to be a skinny and frail and deflated and not curvy version of yourself in a month? But you see the number on the scale.
Yeah,
is that what you really
exactly.
want? Because that's what Skinny Talk is doing. It's making you like this deflated and a frail version of yourself where you're not nurturing yourself properly. And I want to highlight that difference because that's what we also did an episode on the semaglutide a while back. And, that's what I think people are falling into is like the under eating, to your point, Jordan.
Exactly. It's the under eating. It's going back to looking at
protein.
the scale. It's
That's
looking
right.
at the numbers, and that becomes the primary goal again. And also the speed at which you lose, like they want it fast. And I get that. Like I was totally in that place too, being like, I'm tired of being patient. Like I've been dieting for 30 years. I want to get this over with already. Like give me the fast thing. But what you do slow and steady is what lasts. And that's what we need to keep the reframe. And I think our job is getting a lot harder the louder skinny talk gets, because we have more and more of an uphill battle to reach the women that we want to reach in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and even beyond that, to really come back to, wait a second, I want to live a fit life. I want to be able to like play with my grandkids. I want to be able to, you know, climb a mountain. I want to be able to go run a 5K if I felt like it. Like, I want to wear what I want, but also eat what I enjoy. And that is totally possible if you stay away from skinny talk.
That's right.
So I'd love to ask you girls, like, what's your take on this? Like, where, from everything we've talked about so far, like, how would you package it all up in terms of what our girls should be hearing right now?
You don't want skinny, you want sculpted. Like, that's what stands out, because I get the whole, like, again, you do want to get lean, and that's completely fine, but the look that you're going for is not about being skinny. It's really not. And then I want to highlight that too. Like, I think people kind of, they do want these things where like they're hiking with their, you know, feeling good and all that. That's fine. But I think people want things now as well, which is fair. But the you now can be hot. And like, if you want to get hot and look good, that is also not from being skinny. Like, you know, you might think right now, oh, I have all this body fat, I'm going to feel so much better when it's gone. You're actually going to feel like a million times better when not only the body fat is gone, but you have the muscle. And that's a different approach.
Yeah. And I think it's like, it's time to get off the hamster wheel, right? Because like we've already established, this is a repeat of the 90s. Like, fight me on that. Seriously, this is a repeat of the 90s. And I think, you know, you talked about like the women who we've been through this, like the women who have been through this, and now we're kind of going through it again. And I feel like, and I'm speaking personally, it's like, I healed from a lot of this, but like anything, you know, our brains, just like our bodies, have muscle memory. So a lot of this can be very triggering. So I also want to define like when something works. So, you know, when women come to us and they're like, I did this before and it worked. Well, if it worked,
what do you mean?
Wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be having this conversation. So my piece here is like, let's get off the hamster wheel. We did this. It didn't work. We spent a lot of time, energy, money, all of these things healing from this. And now it's being thrown in our faces again. Do it different. Right?
Yeah.
Do it different. All the things that we talk about on this podcast, all the things we're talking about in this episode, you don't want to go down that road. And now women in this demographic, we are older. We don't have that youth on our side. So it's like now, you know, we have to be very, very aware of the next decade or decades that come. What you're doing now, falling back into this, will impact you later in life. So all that frailty and all that we don't want now, because yeah, you're right. Like, I don't want to be skinny and frail now and not be able to do anything. I sure as heck don't want to do that when my body is aging also. So like, get off that wheel right now, right? Exactly.
I love that, Mar. And it comes down to like one of my favorite, you know, principles and standards in Get Sculpted, which is to work smarter, not harder. And
I was just going to say
working harder is essentially skinny talk, and working smarter is working with your body. So like strength-based training, sustainable nutrition, they're not trends. There are things that compound over time, and they're the things that will serve you decades to come. And so I want to transition quickly and actually like do a quick little lightning round.
Sure.
Like, how, if you guys want to answer, how does somebody actually protect themselves from falling back into this old pattern? Like, what are one or two behaviors that they could implement?
Sorry, I was going to say the first step anyone should start with, and I tell this to a client too, is you need to like make a clear vision of your 2.0 self. Like, write it down, what you look like and feel like. And whenever I ask someone this, they're like, you mean like a number? And I'm like, not necessarily. It's more, I don't even care about the size. It's more like, women always say like toned arms and legs, flat stomach. Okay, that's not going to come from like just taking Ozempic, right? Like you need muscle for that result. And then it's reverse engineering. Is everything I'm doing going to produce that result for me? And like skipping meals and eating 800 calories is not. It's not. It's going to make you look like a depleted, you know, melted candle. So don't do it.
You're not going to feel good. Like, you're just not going to feel good, right? For me, I think there's like internal and external. I think from an external perspective, you have to be really intentional with the media you are consuming, because it is everywhere. And like I said, it's so easy, even if you're not directly following the accounts, to just be fed things that you're like, I don't even want to see this. So just be very intentional with what you are consuming. Follow I don't know, people like us who,
Good idea.
Normalize real bodies and real health and wellness and the basics, like really the things that work. And then internally, I think you also, and I think this relates to what you said, T, about your 2.0 self. I think you need to audit your self-talk. And if you catch yourself, falling into old language that you used to use, or Jord, like you said, seeing things and being like, ooh, that kind of would be nice to do this quickly. I think that's your cue right there to step back and do some reflection, because it is very much you being pulled back into that way of thinking. So
I love what you guys said. And so like, just to add on to that, the last piece is like making sure, and this is what we want you all to remember, like your body is not a trend. No. Your body is your body. Like embrace it, like make friends with it, like figure out what your best version of that body needs to look like for you to be happy and healthy and to enjoy and love food and to enjoy and love the life that you built. And you don't have to shrink your body every single time the algorithm shifts, because it shifts almost every single day. So what are you going to do when we go back to big booties? Like you're going to go get a BBL? Like we're not going to be about that. And you are allowed to opt out. Like you're allowed to say, I'm not going to participate in this, like unfollow, unsubscribe, like do it and be brave about it, because this is what you really need to do in order to build the fit life that you're actually imagining. Because what you're imagining is different than what skinnytok is advertising right now, and they're tricking you with the language that they're using. That's right. So if you are tired of starting over every single time a trend comes back around, you're exhausted from fighting your body instead of actually building it, that's what we do as the coaching team at Get Sculpted. We don't chase trends or sell you skinny. We teach you how to get strong, stay consistent, and build a body that actually serves your life. Like your life, not the one that we think you should live, but the one that you are living. So if you're ready to opt out of that cycle for good and build something that lasts for yourself, we have a few spots opening up this month. We'd love to invite you to fill in an application at getsculpted.ca/contact. It'll also be available for you in the show notes below. And let's help you build the antidote to all of this. We can change the narrative. You deserve so much more and so much better than what the algorithm is currently selling you, or documentaries are trying to peddle back towards you. And if this episode hit home and you have a friend who would love to hear it too, you think that they would really resonate with them, please share it with them, because we need to get this message amplified. So on that note, I want to thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you next time on Get Sculpted.
Bye for now.
Bye.